Hey everybody, it's GoblinX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today we are playing another premiere draft of the Artifact Remix draft. This is a reprint set. It is cards from a bunch of different sets on Arena, as well as some older ones that have never fully been put on Arena like Mirrodin, with a big focus on artifacts. There's a lot of cool synergistic decks to draft, and I think it's a lot of fun. So without further ado, let's get into the pack one, pick one here. We've got Welcome to Sweet Tooth. Our first deck we played was a nice blue-white Flyers deck, and I'd be interested in trying to play something on the other end of the spectrum since we'll only have time for a few of these flashbacks. And I do like the green decks quite a bit, particularly the food-based ones. This is 2 mana for a 3/3 and a food token all by itself. Already a really good deal. And if you have other food token synergies, it can be even bigger. So I like that card a lot. But Scrap Trawler is probably the safest pick. Just a really solid value play for basically any deck, being completely colorless and in a format where there are so many different artifacts flying around. So I think that's probably the safer pick, but I'm going to see if we can't hop onto green this time around, play a very different deck than we did in our first draft. Pick number 2, we've got Fierce Witchstalker, Contagious Vorak, and Maulfist Revolutionary, all being very solid green cards to follow up the Welcome to Sweet Tooth. I do like that the Fierce Witchstalker specifically has food synergies again. I do think there's enough cards that care about foods that specifically making a food is quite valuable, and a 4-mana 4/4 trample is a great curve. Now, Contagious Vorak might still be the best of these three because it is a 2-for-1 most of the time. You get a 3/3 onto the board for 3 mana and you draw a land. Anytime you don't see a land in the top 4, it's kind of a bummer, but sometimes you could have a +1/+1 counter on board to proliferate. But Vorak's probably technically the best of these three, but Witchstalker synergizing is fun. I guess I will still go Vorak here, but I'm definitely sticking to green. Those are some really good green cards in the pack. Pick number 3 now. Explorer's Cache is fine. There are some +1/+1 counter synergy decks that this can play really well in, but there's also an excellent black removal spell, Drown in Ichor. It is 2 mana to -4/-4 something and proliferate, which means you add a counter on anything that has a counter if you want to. It's up to you. But that'll add a bunch of +1/+1 counters if you have them around, like on Welcome to Sweet Tooth. So I like the Drown in Ichor here. Plus, green-black is the color pair that benefits the most from food specifically. Pick number 4 now. There's a Bloom Hulk for another proliferator that works well with the Welcome to Sweet Tooth because that has a counter. And then we have both Drown in Ichor and Bloom Hulk proliferating, so if we get more +1/+1 counter cards, we've got double synergy there. Scrapwork Cohort is very, very good, though. It's strong enough to be good even if you're not playing white, and even if you splash a little bit of white, maybe have a treasure token here or there, or a mirror here or there, and then it's just excellent if you are a white deck. And we're only 1 card deep into black. It's only pick number 4, so if we're going pure raw power level, we're probably supposed to take Scrapwork Cohort here, actually. I think it's enough better than Bloom Hulk to speculate a tiny bit here. And now for pick number 5, there's nothing in black, there's nothing in green. Technically there's a Courage in Crisis, but this card is quite mediocre for that entry cost, so we could just take an Ancestral Blade here, 2 mana for a 2/2, and leave an equipment behind for later. There's a bunch of good ways to use that in this set because you care about artifacts entering on some cards, you care about sacrificing artifacts for some cards. Plenty of ways to use the 2 permanents off of 1 card kind of abilities. Ooh, that's a late evolving adaptive. Wow. Okay, so we're happy to stick to green. That part is for sure. The second color, though, we're not locked into anything yet. Could be black with that Drown in Ichor and going for food synergies, but it could also be white with the Cohort and the Blade. And we could decide later if we open up something really good in pack 2. So I'm going to take Evolving Adaptive here. This just keeps getting bigger every time you play a bigger creature. It also gets bigger when you proliferate with something like Drown in Ichor or Contagious Vorak. So 1 mana for a card that often ends up being a 4/4 or 5/5 in the late game is pretty ridiculous. Argothian Opportunist is also quite good, so we're happy to see that. Still sitting around pick 6. Pick 7's a much weaker pack. I'm not very interested in any of these cards. Maulfist Squad is okay, or Renegade Map, or Slagwood's Bridge, like Speculative Fixing, or a mediocre black creature. I'm just going to take Speculative Fixing. I'll take Renegade Map because it can grab any basic land that you need. So whatever our colors end up being, it will be fixing. Pick 8, again, we're at that point where everything looks pretty mediocre. Sibling Rivalry is decent for like the red-black sacrifice decks. I guess Archaeometer is also decent value. Picking up an artifact from grave when it enters. Another Archaeometer. There's also Argothian Sprite, which there's a lot of artifact creatures, so this can get some unblockable attacks in now and then. And it's a good late game mana sink, just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. We're like really locked into green, so I'll take Sprite over a second Archaeometer for sure. Fierce Witchstalker and Maulfist Revolutionary both came back. That's pretty wild. I think I've got enough proliferate stuff now going on. Adaptive Sprite and Welcome to Sweet Tooth all potentially have counters at some point. I'm going to go Revolutionary over Witchstalker, which normally I wouldn't do. I think most of the time Witchstalker is going to be better, but we're very early into the draft, and basically all of our green cards either come with a counter or proliferate. So we actually look like a pretty great Maulfist Revolutionary deck. Ozolith is not a good card, even if you are dedicated +1/+1 counter deck in draft. Just spending a whole card just to try to keep your counters around. It's a little too finicky. Probably on Ulvenwald Mysteries here. This isn't the greatest pack ever. Ulvenwald Mysteries is pretty slow, but if the game does go long, you're turning every single creature into a 2-for-1. Like if you trade your 3/3 into their 3/3, you get way ahead because you draw a card and get a 1/1, whereas they just have the trade. So Ulvenwald Mysteries over a long game can really grind out a lot of value. I think it's worth the pick here. Not a super good pack though. Candy Grapple, here's an excellent black removal spell if we do want to go green-black. Fatal Push is okay as well. Obsessive Skinner's fine. It's a little hard to get to Delirium, but if you do get there, a lot of counters. So we get like an artifact. I guess the idea is artifact, creature, instant sorcery into grave. I think green's open enough that we probably wheel the Skinner. We haven't taken a lot of removal. I'm going to grab the Candy Grapple here. It could just be a bunch of green creatures and some black removal spells is our plan. Another Candy Grapple. I think we take the removal really highly. We are not a color pair that's going to be running a bajillion artifacts, so Patchwork Automaton, this is like one of the very few decks in this format where it's not going to be great. Same with Argothian Opportunist, actually, at this rate. We don't have a bajillion ways to use that mana. So let's just grab another Candy Grapple. Fierce Witchstalker looks pretty awesome here. Yeah, we're just kind of green-black beats. Just large green threats and cheap black removal. Maulfist squad on this one. Argothian Opportunist, Taste of Death could be good. Too, depends on the position. I'm going to grab the Taste of Death. We'll play around with it. It's a dual-sided card. Both of us have to sacrifice 3 creatures. But we will know when we have Taste of Death in hand, and we can like make sure not to play our 3rd creature and wait till they have 3 out and then pop that thing. I doubt we're playing any of this. Take a Walking Skyscraper. It's colorless. We could fill it in. Wow, a bunch of good white cards here. We have the Blade and the Cohort. For black, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, and I think we're a little too locked in now to pivot back towards white. Well, that may have been the better spot to be initially. I'm going to grab the dual, maybe. That'll let us play a little bit of all 3 colors. Blood Fountain for late game value. Pick up a couple creatures from grave. And then probably nothing much until we get into that final pack here. Okay, pack 3, pick 1. Minstrosity versus Mightstone and Weakstone. I don't actually think Mightstone and Weakstone's super good in this deck. Most decks, this is a very good card in this set because you get to play a 5 mana -5/-5 removal spell and then keep getting mana out of this for your artifacts later. But our artifact count is 1. So I think Minstrosity is probably actually better here. We are still lacking on early creatures, and that is one that also gives us an early food token towards our Welcome to Sweet Tooth. And we're certainly not lacking on removal right now. We've got 3 removal spells. There we go. There's a Savvy Hunter for that food token synergy, drawing us extra cards over and over. Come on in. Looks like we primarily want to just be taking creatures here. Yep, basically just slam a creature every pick until we're at 23 cards, and then we've got a deck. I think I need creatures badly enough to go Cartographer's Companion over Knight of the Sweet's Revenge, which is a pretty cute card, but a little narrow, and it's certainly not a creature. Bloom Hulk, another Ulvenwald Mysteries. Take the creature. Come on in, Bloom Hulk. Bloom Hulk is particularly good with the adaptive because that very likely double triggers it. We play a 4/4, which makes the adaptive go from like 2/2 or 3/3 up to 4/4, and then we also proliferate after that. Gaia's Gift is enough better than Centurion here to, I think, take the non-creature, even if I am only at 11. Centurion's just so filler. Maybe we could have taken a bunch of these Kinsmiths and ended up with like 3 of those, just tutoring for each other, playing them turn over turn. There we go, there's a Servant of the Scale. I don't think the fixing's good enough for Miglaws. The Maze Crusher, as strong as that card is, if we were green-red, that would have been sick. Just play a Servant here. Scrapwork Mutt's also fine, even if you don't have red. So that would be fine too, but I'll take the Servant. We've got a lot of random proliferate stuff going on. Okay, I've got 1 Gaia's Gift. I don't think I'd take the second gift over Opportunists. Now we only need 1 more spell. Okay, now I can take second Gaia's Gift because the only options are non-creatures. And there we go, 23 non-land cards. We've got a deck. Probably not playing double Explorer's Cache. I'm pretty happy with the first copy, but I don't think that's the kind of card you want multiples, because if you ever draw 2 in the same hand, that's going to be really awkward. Okay, we'll play a Bloom Hulk over a non-creature spell here. Maybe the Blood Fountain? Sure. Don't think I'm playing Knight of the Sweet's Revenge over any of this. Maybe the Skyscraper. Probably not. Double Ulvenwald Mysteries. Very similarly, not a card you ever want to draw 2 copies of. And we're a slightly lower creature count, so the first copy's already a little bit awkward. Trying to get those triggers off of non-token creatures dying. I could even see not running the first copy, like running Blood Fountain or something instead of the first Ulvenwald Mysteries, but we'll try it out. We'll run like 1 of everything here. Kind of built the deck there in the end. So it's already kind of pre-made for us. We'll check our counts. 15 green cards, 7 black, but we do have good double black cards, specifically Taste of Death. I think I can go 10-7 on it, though. But we'll call it a deck here, hop into gameplay, see how far this one can take us. Here we are on the draw for game number 1. So we'll start on the defensive, but we've got a Curve of Creatures here, run out the Ulvenwald Mysteries later, so that whenever we're trading, we're getting ahead. There's Tough Cookie from our opponent, which I will immediately Candy Grapple. That has some really good abilities where it can turn their non-creature artifacts into 4/4s to beat down. If they don't play a creature this turn, I wouldn't mind running out an Ulvenwald Mysteries on the empty board. That way, whenever anybody dies for any reason, we're guaranteed to get the clues. They do play a creature. However, that creature's ability makes it so it's a 4/4 if I try to block with Companions, so I'm actually just going to run out the Ulvenwald Mysteries first here, because if I play Cartographer's Companion, it doesn't attack or block well against the Cutthroat Centurion anyway. There's Obsessive Skinner. Now it really doesn't attack or block well. Now not even the Witch Stalker does. That Centurion threatens to be a 5/5 whenever it needs to be. Oh, they're just going to go big right now. Kind of happy with that. That's one less card they could sack to win a combat later. There's that Bake into a Pie on the Witch Stalker, where we get the Ulvenwald Mysteries trigger, since we ran that out first. So basically our whole goal right now is to just stop as much damage as we can to slow our opponent down. Because if we survive, we will win the long game off Ulvenwald Mysteries, but they are getting a lot of damage in immediately. There's the Drownin' Ichor. This they can use during our turn as well, so they could save the Centurion from Drownin' Ichor. So we have to kill Skinner specifically. Which is kind of fine, because the Skinner was going to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger anyway. They can sack the Skinner to Centurion's abilities that if I did have something to proliferate onto, I would not be able to proliferate here, but I don't have anything anyway. Go to 4. Let's see if I can proliferate here. I can indeed. We're dead to double removal. There's one. Double removal would be crazy here. After the earlier Bake into a Pie as well. Okay, that is not removal, but I do have to chump. But every chump that we do with a non-token is giving us a 1/1. I need 3 blockers to not die, which is Minstrosity and the 2 1/1s off the clues. Just hitting lands here. I'd rather play Minstrosity than the third 1/1. Because if they just draw a land here, then a 3/1 on the 3/3 and the 2 1/1s on the 4/2 menace. They did just draw land there. There's a Gaia's Gift for us. That's pretty huge. Another land for us. Traxos. Pretty scary if it ever untaps. I'm considering trading into the Argothian Sprite here. Sadly for them, I have a Gaia's Gift. They could sack Traxos to keep Centurion, but I wouldn't take any damage this turn. And we'd kill Traxos, so that's fine too. And they're going to keep Traxos. Contagious Vorak. I'd rather proliferate than grab the extra land there. I'm at 7 life. If they cast something that untaps Traxos, I want to be not dead. Which Contagious Vorak would make me not dead, right? I stopped 3 of the damage, but just in case it's like an artifact that blows something up, I'm going to leave the 1/1 back as well. Alright. Great recovery there. Really showing off the power of Ulvenwald Mysteries that game. Grinding out that long game with those extra clues and 1/1's good stuff from the card, and we are 1-0 heading to game 2. Alright. Here we are for game number 2. This looks like a really good hand to stabilize in the late game and try to flip things around with that Taste of Death. Right, it's got a 2-for-1 creature early with Contagious Vorax that we are up a card there. And then the Taste of Death on the right board can put us even farther ahead. Double Gaia's Gift is a little awkward. Obviously, don't ever want to be drawing like multiple combat tricks in the same hand. You have to have the creatures to cast them on. Welcome to Sweet Tooth. I'm already there. You don't gotta welcome me. I have my own copy. It's just not in my hand. I don't actually have a sweet tooth in real life. I mean, sweets are fine, but I can go without them. I just eat savory food every meal. I don't need desserts. But I will eat them when offered. I have a cheese tooth, whatever that's called. I need cheese in every single meal. I don't care what it is. I mean, if I eat any kind of like Asian food, usually, there's not a lot of Asian dishes with cheese involved. So then it's fine. But Italian, Mexican, American, French, any of that, throw all the cheese in to whatever it is. Down to 15. I'm rambling while I'm getting beaten down by this green-red deck. But it's a pretty basic, pretty chill game here. Our game plan is just survive till Taste of Death, so there's not too much to say. Should I try to Gaia's Gift over running out another creature here? It could go pretty poorly for us, but if it resolves, then it makes our Taste of Death even more filthy. If we just stick to a single creature on this board till then. Lose is indestructible. Well, it doesn't lose hexproof. This is going to be really funny if I double Gaia's Gift. Hilarious. Whee! The highlight, the Vorak, the like, what?
What are you doing over there?
Gaia's gift. That's 3 creatures. Let's go. They have 0 cards in hand and 0 creatures on board now. This Taste of Death is quite likely to win us this game. Ooh. Evolving Adaptive. Into Witch Stalker, into then Bloomhulk next turn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If I draw another land next turn, I could play like Malphus Squad now, and then next turn I could play Witch Stalker and Bloomhulk. The adaptive would be, let's see, it's 1, it's going to be 2. Next turn it goes to 3, 4, 5. Let's go for it. I guess either of the non-Bloomhulk creatures this turn, it doesn't really matter which. But we save Bloomhulk for last. Bloomhulk gonna be the creature that puts it to 4 and then proliferates from 4 to 5. It's pretty nice. We've got like an entire board. Post-board wipe off those 2 cards alone. Our opponent is flooding. They might have like a removal spell or something. Didn't hit the land here, but Explorer's Cache. Explorer's Cache with the Proliferate is kind of sweet. Because it's for each counter on the cards, right? I just run out the Bloomhulk now. Adaptive becomes a 6/6. Yeah, 4/4, and then add 1 of each counter. Yeah, they're over it. Our board is massive, and Taste of Death really just stole that game from them. And that is 2-0 heading into game 3. All right, here we are on the play for game number 3. If we draw some lands here, this hand is wild. Turn 1 Evolving Adaptive into turn 2 Sprite into turn 3 Opportunist, so we're just evolving every single turn. Skyscraper later. Skyscraper, we can pretend this hand's a mulligan to 6, but I would absolutely keep the 6-card hand of land, adaptive, sprite, opportunist, and squad. They killed the sprite. That's actually really bad for us because now it doesn't evolve to 3/3, and that is a 1 less modified creature for the Skyscraper, so it's going to be really hard to cast. But our opportunist helps at least with its Power Stone. Speaking of, that Power Stone works with Cartographer's Companion 2. So I can try to crack the map pre-combat in case we find a +1/+1 counter. Candy Grapple Opportunist, fair enough. Chose Opportunist over Sprite because Sprite has a much more relevant ability to keep it around longer. It's possible we still should have targeted the Sprite just because they don't have any creatures on the board yet. So if they're on a really slow hand that still doesn't play more creatures, then just having 1 more power right now could be more relevant. There's Blade of Shared Souls, which is just a 2/2, but they can start copying other creatures by moving it around. I think for now we're super fine to just play the squad and keep jamming. Archaeomender. Just a 2/3, no artifacts in their grave. Kill the 2/3. Jam. We're at 6 out of 8 mana for the Skyscraper. Structural Assault. Blow up the entire board. Get a taste of our own taste of death medicine. But our opponent only has 2 cards in their hand post board wipe, unlike the 4 that we had last game, so we could still be in this. Not that that board wipe was good for us, but it wasn't completely devastating, potentially. Okay. Ulvenwald Mysteries would have been so good pre-wipe. But it's still pretty reasonable here to actually let me get this attack in and look for my mana. Find one. And there's the 2/2 again. Draw a couple cards, discard a card, get a Power Stone. They can move the blade to the 1/1 so that they have 2/2/2s on the board, which is cute. Okay. Welcome to Sweet Tooth. Actually not a particularly good draw. Any lands or any non-token creatures are what we want here. That is a token. That's a land, though. Moon Silver Key. We'll see if they have any good 1-mana artifacts in their deck to grab off this key. Or no, this is the one that tutors for artifacts with mana abilities, not 1-mana artifacts. See, I mean, the odds of them having an artifact with a mana ability that does anything else is probably not very high. Yeah, Terrarium draws them a card. Fair enough. They get to cycle it. Savvy Hunter. Actually a pretty good one. Just realized that gave me a modified creature so I can play the Skyscraper. I probably should have just pre-combat played the Skyscraper and then attacked. Okay, there's the concession from our opponent. Gigantic Hexproof Trampler is more than enough. That was a card I was really considering cutting, so it's very cute that it did help us in that game at least. And we are now 3-0. That is an undefeated run all the way up to at least a 50-50 record. Great start and a solid draft no matter what happens from here. All right, here we are on the play for game number 4. There's not a whole ton going on in this hand, but it takes a lot to get me to mulligan. So I've got a couple castable spells. I've got both my colors. We'll see. We'll see. Voltage Surge, the Servant of the Scale. Certainly makes the Walking Skyscraper a lot worse. First draws another land. They find an Ancestral Blade for their turn 2. They're on red and white. There's an Explorer's Cache for us, which is not very good without very many creatures on the board, so it's pretty awkward here. I mean, if we draw another creature, it will be helpful towards getting to the Skyscraper, because that'll make sure we have a lot of modified creatures out at the very least. And we've just drawn another land. If they've got a burn spell, they can counter us from surveilling with this map token. I mean, we drew a card off it, but it is more lands. Do they want to counter the Explorer's Cache +1/+1 counter? I don't think I'm gonna be blocking with Cartographer's Companion unless they put a lot of pressure on me. Right now I'm just taking 3 a turn, which is okay. Having the Companion around makes the Skyscraper come down at least 1 turn sooner, which is pretty important when it's the only other spell that I have. Draw another land. I mean, with all lands, no spells, as much as waiting another turn for Skyscraper hurts, at this point I would have to just trade Companion into the 4/2. Just have to draw something. If we hit like Taste of Death, we kind of win. So we have one like super winning draw, but it is just another land. We got like a 1 in 20 chance of winning this. 1 in 27 chance. That's not great. That is not the Taste of Death. That is far too late. Yes, I mean, like, I kill one of their non-perilous mirror cards. I'm basically killing a 1/2 or a 2/2. Because these are both, you know, a 1/1 or a 1/2 that are equipped. So I'll kill the 1/2 that doesn't shoot me when it dies. And then they'll hit me for 5, and I'll be at 2 life, so if Perilous Mirror ever dies, I'm dead. They did not equip the Splitter, so they're playing something else, but I'll be at 4 at least. Oh, 3/3 Double Striker. And then there's a Gaia's Gift. Alright. We kept a pretty mid-hand, and then we hit the lower end of the spectrum on the draws. We hit some... I don't know. Just a bunch of lands and cards that like buff our current creatures, but we kept a hand that just didn't really have much creatures. Initially, we really needed to hit some gas there, hit some of like the good 3/4 mana creatures, and we just did not at all, so... Awkward Draw is going to pull that away from us. That is 3-1 heading into game number 5. This has that top end Taste of Death. If we're behind on turn 6, which is pretty likely with this hand, we only have 2 creatures, one at 1 mana and one at 4 mana. But I will keep this. This looks very reasonable. Chromatic Star to start them off. We drew into another creature. We've got Cartographer's Companion turn 3 as well now. They're going to filter their mana through the Chromatic Star, but just pass turn. And they were just drawing a card, cycling. We drew a 3rd swamp before our 2nd forest, so we may not get a turn 4 Fierce Witch Stalker. There's an Explorer's Cache. Be mana efficient and play the Companion first anyway. The cache gives us something to do if we don't get to Witch Stalker next turn. It is, funnily enough, slightly awkward that we're in a pretty good position on board. With the Taste of Death in hand, because I'm pretty sure I'm supposed to just keep the pressure on here. I might even be supposed to proliferate here instead of picking up another land. I think I am. Boom, down to 12. If that was a green source, I think I should have drawn it, but I think it was a swamp. I might be wrong. Forest probably should have picked up because we have the Fierce Witch Stalker. Double removal, okay. Okay, so the board state is flipping back towards Taste of Death, looking like a potential win condition. And that's 5 out of 6 mana for it. Savvy Hunter. Oh, eat the food, okay. Bloom Hulk. Hello there. A little awkward for the Taste of Death, but it's pretty great here. Kind of have to play it. 13 life. Do I send this? Against one card in hand? If that one card is removal on Bloom Hulk, sending this is really bad. I think I pass. Or if I like top deck the removal for the Bloom Hulk. Minstrosity. Argothian Opportunist. They have 5 toughness if they double block with those two, so we send in the 5/5, then play Opportunist, put a counter on it. Iron Tread Crusher. So they could sack a vehicle to the Taste of Death. If the land off of Contagious Vorak was a swamp, we have hit a crazy amount of swamps here. So I feel like it was probably a forest that I just said no to, like a doofus. They've got the 6/6 blocker up now, so I can't really do anything. And if I just cast Taste of Death, that's also pretty bad at this point, because they just animate the Crusher, they keep a Savvy Hunter, and we keep nothing. So I believe this is just pass now that that 6/6 is here. Oh god. Tough Cookie is straight gas here. Now they can just animate a food token and sack that instead. That is really, really good. Drownin' Ichor, speaking of really, really good, that proliferate is huge. Kill the Savvy Hunter or kill the Tough Cookie here? Those are the options for sure. If I try to kill the Tough Cookie, they could respond by sacking it to the Savvy Hunter, sack it and the food to draw a card here. But it's making 4/4s on blocks. They've already got a 6/6 on blocks. I'm gonna hit the Tough Cookie. Its ability is just too good. They really should sack it and draw the card here. They stopped the proliferate too. Looks like they might not because they chose to animate that food. Unless they're just going to animate it and eat it, which would be just spending 3 mana for fun. Okay, wow. Surprised and happy they didn't sack it, because then I do get my counters. But since they did animate it, we do not attack this turn. Small Fist Squad, a really good draw. 2 more creatures against that Taste of Death. Taste of Death looking absolutely atrocious this game. There's our second forest. That 10-7 split was not looking like it this game. There's 2 of 10. Or 3 of 10 if I tucked one away. Let's play a Fierce Witch Stalker. Yeah, send in a Bloom Hulk. Just kill a Chumper. Send in a Bloom Hulk. Bloom Hulk dies, we put a counter on the Explorer's Cache, we move the counter from the cache to the Servant of the Scale, attack with that as a 6/6, and then when that dies, we put a million counters on the Trampler, as well as 1 counter on Opportunist from Explorer's Cache. Chump with Minstrosity to get a second food for Savvy Hunter is reasonable. You know what could actually be the play? If I Taste of Death, sacking Servant, Hulk, and Opportunist, I'm putting 6 +1/+1 counters on the Witch Stalker. I'm attacking with a 10-10 trample that turn. It's not lethal. That is interesting in the future. Yeah, Bloom Hulk's a pretty sick draw. It lets me just send in the squad. Don't have to worry about Taste of Death shenanigans. Could send in Witch Stalker as well, but then if they have like the instant speed removal spell here, like a Bake into a Pie, they could like bake the Bloom Hulk, kill the Witch Stalker for free, double block an Opportunist. I don't know, I feel like it could go really wrong if I'm sending in that Witch Stalker and giving them a free Crusher kill. They're down to 1. Some good +1/+1 counter nonsense there, and we are now 4-1 heading into game Number 6. Another Taste of Death hand. We'll see if we actually cast it this game. Oh no, our opponent has turn 1 rare. Ovia Pashiri's really good. She spits out a bunch of 1/1s, and then eventually, when you get to 5 mana or more, that's where she's really absurd, spitting out like 4/4s, 5/5s, 6/6s every single turn. So that is really troublesome, especially since they're on the play. It's going to be a very long time till we get to Taste of Death. By the time that we get there, she is probably well defended by them having way more than 3 creatures because she makes more tokens in the first place. So this is looking quite bad already. Yep, they're just going to pass the turn, make a 1/1. Okay, that was an excellent draw. Just deal with her, unless they have Gaia's Gift. Can't play around the Gaia's Gift because her ability's instant speed anyway. Brutal. If I just pass through the turn, they just activate, make a 1/1, and if I don't try to drown, they never have to play the Gaia's Gift. At least they had to spend the mana doing that instead of making a 1/1, which means they have less creatures towards the Taste of Death in the future. Which is something. Contagious Vorak and draw the land. Desperately trying to make it to 6 mana. But next turn they can just go land and activate Ovia, making a 4/4 without even spending a card. I think we're getting Pashiri'd here. We're getting Ovia'd. Yikes. No land in the top 4. No land in the top 5. And here comes Magic the Goldfishing. Their game plan is make a 4/4 pass, make a 5/5 pass, make a 6/6 pass until we die. Because that's just how Ovia rolls. It's a 4/4 here. We could attack with Servant and Vorak with a Gaia's Gift up, I suppose. I guess it's technically a 3/3 first. That's pretty big. Probably blow up the artifact. They could have Proliferate. Maybe it's better to kill the one with counters on it. That's nasty. They kill our Servant of the Scale with something that doesn't put it in the grave, so we don't get to move the counters. Plus, they get to support 2, so they get some counters of their own. They still have the mana up to make a 1/1 here. Get that wide board for Ovia to make bigger creatures, as well as to be safe from the Taste of Death. Another non-land. 10 life now. The deal feels pretty sealed. Because if I just sit here and stay on the defensive, they're just making bigger and bigger and bigger creatures. Like, it's not a plan. That's almost my only option at this point. Probably should have just played Revolutionary pre-combat. Evolving Adaptive. Ovia makes a 4/4, and Adaptive goes up to 2 power toughness here. Another Gaia's Gift, I guess. Nope, we actually get a trade. That is surprising. Another non-land. Man. This doesn't untap, does it? It does not untap the creature. 6 life. Now we are just passing and dying to Ovia. They make a 6/6 now. They have well more than 3 creatures. I mean, I guess I still have like a 0.1% chance of victory. No, I'm just dead. I have 2 blockers and no way to make a third. Never mind. I could have conceded here. Maybe they will somehow not see lethal, or they will play around a crazy removal spell. Nope. We're dead. Alright, rough game. I mean, they just resolved an OVA and went crazy with her. It's as simple as that. Gaia's Gift may be the biggest overperformer there. Because without the Gaia's Gift, like if I did manage to actually kill that Ovia with our Drowned Iker, it would have been a much longer game, much more of a back and forth, but Ovia just takes it so hard. I mean, she made like 4 or 5 creatures, like a 4 or 5 for 1. Gross stuff from Ovia Pashiri, and we are 4-2 now, heading into game 7. We are on the play this time around. Our opponent's on blue and white, tutors out the plains with their Renegade map. And play a 3-bit Inspector. Guess I'll just make the 1/1 big enough to attack in. They have 1 blue mana and they have an instant up here. Scratch that. They have a Cogwork Wrestler. So 1/2, when it enters, something gets -2/-0 till end of turn. So if I put a counter on the 1/1 and then attacked, they block with 2 1/2s against a 0/2, and I lose my creature for nothing. I mean, I guess not for nothing. We would get that combat trick out of their hand for later. But if I just keep in mind that they have a Cogwork Wrestler, I can make sure to play around it. Like now, the Cogwork Wrestler doesn't work anyway. Static Net. Goodbye, Maulfist Squad. Sure. They've got Cogwork Wrestler up off of Ornithopter of Paradise, but I don't think that matters. Yeah, not if I'm going to have 3/3s here. Let's just make 3/3s. 3/3s and bigger. Them exiling instead of destroying is a little bit rough. Yeah, that doesn't really do anything. Since they exiled instead of destroyed, we did not get a counter back out of Explorer's Cache. Sky Swimmer Koi. Well, there's a candy grapple target. Relatively chunky flyer. They fight our Bloom Hulk. Could have waited to play Candy Grapple till during combat to see if they were going to try to double block the 4/4 with the 3/3 and a 1/2, and then I could get a double kill there, but I think that was pretty unlikely, so just preventing them from throwing 3/3 on 3/3 is fine. I just Gaia's Gift whoever the Gear Seeker Serpent blocks. Sure. Everybody else chips in. Just got double Gaia's Gift in a row. Okay. They are over it. And that is 5-2 now. I think we're guaranteed in the money out of this draft. I think we already had a winning record. And now we're leaving with more gems than we paid to enter. Feels great. We are 5-2 heading into round number 8. Okay, here we are on the draw for game number 8 with a rough opener here. I mean, we have double removal for their first couple threats, and they're on the play, so that is actually kind of what you want on the defensive here early. But the lack of green mana is really devastating, in particular because we have a double green card in the hand. We do have 10 forests in this deck. It's not the riskiest thing in the universe, but the other thing to consider is that our first green creature, the one that needs a single green, is like a proliferate card when we're going to have nothing else on the board. So I kind of feel like I have to mulligan here. Like, we might have a better chance just crossing our fingers and hoping to draw the right stuff. If we do draw the right stuff, then this hand can become really good. Whereas if we mulligan, we're guaranteed down a card. I think we have to mulligan, though. There's just a lot of ways this hand can go wrong. And this is much better. Just get rid of the 8 mana card. Much more consistent, at least. Our opponent is on green-black. They lead with an Obsessive Skinner, so if they get 4 or more card types in their grave, they get a +1/+1 counter every turn. There's the Renegade map to put an artifact in their grave at least. Fatal Push for an instant in the grave. They are already halfway there. There's a Taste of Death for us in the late game. Actually looks pretty good for this hand because we don't have any more creatures to play anyway. Yep, I just can't do anything here. And they grab the swamp off the Renegade map. Deadeye Plunderers, that's a big one. I mean, if they just play one more creature, then Taste of Death and roll with it here. They did not play another creature. We draw another Gaia's Gift. Just keep doing our thing. Eat the Plunderers, okay. Three cards left in their hand. Hamlet Glutton's a gigantic creature. They don't play another. Eat this food, see what we draw. Another land. Give them one more turn to play a third creature. If they play two more creatures, this will be bad, though, because then they get to keep the Glutton. Like, if they play 0 or 2 creatures, then it would have been better to play it last turn. Bloom Hulk's the draw. Bloom Hulk Gaia's Gift is enough to block Glutton, in theory. Save the taste. There's 3 creatures now. Oh, it's during our upkeep too? That's particularly gross. So we're literally turning this into a top deck war where they draw the first card is the best we can do now. We just cast Taste of Death right now, right? Maybe get some damage in first. Okay, get 6 damage in. $11 life to $11 life. They get the first draw. Now we're just playing playing roulette here. Oh my god, the first draw is Wave Sifter. Their first blind top deck is a 3/2 flyer that draws 2 more cards. Well, we're dead. Probably. Ours is a Surveil 1. 3/2. And that's just a 3/3. It's not going to get through Wave Sifter. Mill that. I feel like we lost this top deck war on the first draw. That's wild. Okay. Perilous Mirror trades into the Companion. Wailing Pirates, tap and stun somebody. It's actually one of our best draws. It's gonna be real close. We got 11 power out now, though. So I think I just went from very far behind to a little behind. That's a great one. The Epic Confrontation Fight spell. Gain some life. Oh, it's double spell still? Okay. They would simply not hit land, and we're dead. That is 5 and 3. Tragic ending there. That first draw of the Wave Sifter after the Taste of Death really being the nail in the coffin there. But overall, great run from the deck. Don't mind it at all. We're leaving with more gems than we paid to enter. Very positive win rate, winning more games than we lost. Good stuff from the deck. It, of course, was not perfect, which is part of what drags it away from a potential 7-win run here. We have some pretty mediocre cards like the Walking Skyscraper. That was a dead card in our hand quite often, as you could tell in those games, just because of how expensive it is. Cartographer's Companion was super, super filler, and we drew it pretty frequently. It always felt pretty bad. Outside of that, I don't think anything else was like particularly terrible. We could have just used a bit of a better curve, a little bit more at the 2-mana slot, just a little bit higher card quality overall. I don't think anything else in the deck was particularly horrible. These two were like the really bad cards. The rest were just like not quite ideal, like Explorer's Cache maybe being a little slow, Overwhelmed Mysteries maybe a little slow, maybe just wanting one guy as gift and then like another creature would have been better. So just some minor adjustments I think could have taken this deck a little bit farther, but 5 and 3 still a great run overall. But that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for their support, as well as you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it and you're interested in seeing some more, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. And other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.